Hello, GeoGebra fans. We will set up a machine, a mechanism, or a linkage, or a set of, or a machine op art kinetic sculpture. You can call it whatever you want, but we will do this, and it's gonna make your head explode. We're gonna put two sliders in. First one will be radius 1 or rad 1. It doesn't matter how big you make it. I'm going to just say 1 to 5. And then another slider with the second radius, rad 2. And again, it doesn't matter. Let's just say 1 to 5. There's a theory about reciprocity. If the second radius is bigger than the first, we have a reciprocating motion. And reciprocity is one of my favorite words. We use it in engineering mechanics with Maxwell's theorem in Archie 501, the advanced mechanics class. Reciprocity between form and function is something that I'm super interested in. But this is machine reciprocity or crank linkages. Okay? All right, so now we have our two radii. We will drop down a point anywhere, doesn't matter where, and let's call that origin. And then we will create a circle around the origin of the first radius. Circle, center, and radius. There's my center, and rad 1 is my radius. Now we will put the end of the crank on the circle. So we'll put a point somewhere on the circle. It doesn't matter where. Let's call that crank end. Obviously, you have to use capital letters when you're naming points. So now the crank end is forced to go on the circle. We can create a link going from the origin to the crank. And we could animate the crank, but I'm going to animate it over here. And you'll see why. I'm going to change by object type here. It's a lot easier to catch it to turn off the animation when you animate it over here. So crank end, animation on, everything looks good. It's zooming around. Now I'd like to put in a second link that will be on a slider, and that slider will be connected to the origin of the first circle. If that sounds difficult, it's not. I will put a point somewhere out in space. It doesn't matter where it is, and I'm going to call that slider. And now I will pass a line from the origin through the slider. Oops. Okay. So now we see that we have that line passing through the slide. And I want my second circle to intersect this line. My second circle defines the radius, defines the length of the second link. So that's here, circle, center, and radius. And I have to have a fixed radius here, which is rad 2. And fixed, I'm using that word loosely because it's actually not fixed, it's variable, okay? As is radius 1. Okay, now, here's the last part. I want to intersect this second circle with my slider. And obviously it will intersect in 2 spots, but I'm only going to use one of those. So I'm going to select the entity, the circle, and the slider. I'm going to hide this point so it doesn't confuse me. And then I will put in my second link. And here we go. Let's hide the circle, hide that circle, hide this line, and hit animation on the crank end. Oh man, that's cool. Okay, so you could see the beginnings of this as being, and it's a lot easier, instead of trying to catch this, it's just a lot easier to turn off the animation here. Oops. We can keep going then and create complicated mechanisms and something quite beautiful. We could also turn on the trace of the end of the slider. I think it's right here. Show trace. So let's try that. And obviously the trace isn't super exciting for us in this example, but you can imagine, I hope, that other possibilities exist for beautiful art. Thank you.